Well, if you didn't like the changes being made to the Peter Pan's flight ride over at Walt Disney World, I got news for you. They're doing that at Disneyland too. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is theme park expert Mr. VashSky. Vash, I got a question for you. How did this happen?
How did this happen? That is indeed the question right here. Well, Disney has been on this kick for whatever reason to reimagine certain portions of their attractions. It's been coming up at least very recently for the last 6-8 years and so forth, and now they're going to be claiming another victim in the form of Disneyland's Peter Pan, which is most unfortunate.
Right. And there is a long history here. Peter Pan ride at Walt Disney World updated with new Native American depictions. Disneyland Next, of course, as is often the case when you say Native American, well, that's not really what they are. They're the Neverland tribe. We're talking about what First Nations, is that the catch-all term that we're using here, assuming that all other nations are secondary. Interesting. That's a ethnocentric worldview right there. A scene in one of Disneyland's original rides is getting a modern makeover. Peter Pan's flight has been a staple at Disneyland since opening day in 1955 and is one of Walt Disney's few original attractions that remains operational. One portion of the ride is getting a makeover, however. The so-called Neverland tribe scene, which has for decades featured a chief in a headdress along with drumming braves and a seated tiger lily, will now feature a more benign-looking drummer and a more active tiger lily dancing alongside her grandmother. The chief is gone entirely. Ah, I see. Got to take him out, huh? Got to emasculate this tribe here, huh? The changes were already introduced at Walt Disney World last week. The visitors taking notice and posting photos. See below for before and after shots shared to social media. Right here, you got Tiger Lily, and you have the Braves as depicted in the film. Got to say, it's a likeness of the original film here, and it's been replaced with they've softened the look a little bit on Tiger Lily. Obviously she looks a little bit more shocked there, and here they don't really show the grandmother very well, and then they some noble people here, not really in the spirit of the original Peter Pan, but stories matter has to make their nut somehow, so they want to come in and they can quote unquote fix all the rides. Vash, earlier, I asked you where this started. I'm trying to think, what is the first attraction that they had Imagineers come in and an update for cultural sensitivity? I'm thinking it's probably the redhead on Pirates of the Caribbean, but it could have been something before that. I'm not completely sure. Vash, do you know of anything?
One of the most notable instances of which this kind of started to happen was in the 1990s with the same attraction, Pirates of the Caribbean, but not the redhead. Actually, it was the women being chased by the men. So the scene just after the redhead there, and that was changed where the women were chasing the men and the men had food in their hands and so forth. So that's kind of how that was changed. But I remember an incident, actually, I believe this goes back to the either 60s or 70s, in which they changed It's a Small World, interestingly enough. So originally they had kids laughing with the hyenas in the African Veldt section of that attraction. Allegedly, a woman actually complained to City Hall, suggesting that in which she was from Africa, and said, well, wait a minute, that the hyenas are looked at as a dirty animal. That would never actually happen, and that's offensive to my region and my country. So that scene was switched up after that complaint was actually filed. And so you can see very distinct points which the people of the African Veldt section and the hyenas are very distinctly separate. So this goes back a long ways here. It's just it's unfortunate with this attraction because, like you said, Jonas, they don't follow the designs from the original movie. That's one. But two, yeah, these aren't Native Americans. This is supposed to be a kind of a child's fantasy of depictions of these peoples being in this region. Like pirates, for example, aren't the bloodthirsty pirates from before. It's a kid's imagination or version of them in their mind applied to Neverland. So
and there is, of course, with the Disney versions, they are a sanitization of the original version.
Sure.
Here, there's actual murder and killing in the original Peter Pan. It's very casual the way that Peter Pan talks about killing pirates and killing Indians. and things like that. I don't want to say it's a bloodier book because there's no reference to blood in the book, or for lack of a better way to put it, there might actually be a reference to blood. But it is a fantastical and Western view from a child's perspective of what would be going on here, which is why all of the adults in Neverland are evil in some way or are an opponent to Peter Pan, because it's all pretty much from Peter's perspective. Also, Tiger Lily is supposed to be a romantic interest for Peter Pan, as well as Wendy is a romantic interest for Peter and Tinkerbell, because it's all supposed to be a world that centers around Peter Pan. And famously, wasn't Peter Pan also not even in the ride when it was first opened, because none of the attractions actually had the main character in them at the time?
Yeah, it was all about you being the main character. So in the original incarnation of the attraction, I believe Captain Hook actually informed Smeeta to fire the cannons at you because they wanted to take them down, kind of thing. So it's kind of a funny thing. Obviously, that's changed considerably now. Yeah, I believe there is a cannon that shoots off in your general direction, but it's much less frightening as it was before. But yeah, it's just obviously Disney bring their stories to life and so forth in this setting right here. Obviously, maybe some things might be contentious over time because values change, which, yeah, for better or for worse, does happen.
One thing I do think is interesting here, especially the Disney World version, that's obviously after 1955. They had a little time to think about it before they put that in there, and now they're updating it. I see things that have gone into the parks even within the last few years that I think eventually the park will come around to the idea that it's offensive. For instance, Tiana's Bayou Adventure being hosted on Avery Island. They actually put that into the queue that it's Avery Island, and there are jokes about slavery even in Avery Island when you think about the fact that nobody really willingly works in a salt mine, and they say, remember, the salt mines are reserved for seasoned veterans. So literally talking about veterans going to work in the salt mines. That's nothing that I would hope for a veteran to have to return to after serving the country, stuff like that. Or maybe there's something else in the park that if Stories Matters continues, they will just find something else, because this is an established department within the Walt Disney Company, and we've talked about them in the previous version of this video. They are a roaring lion looking around for a story to devour, because they exist to make modifications to the parks. They are sensitivity readers, so that is what they do in order to justify their existence. Am I really defending the original depictions of the Neverland tribe here? No, but you could probably remove them and avoid this issue altogether. Vash?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest point of distinction right here. This is not like Snow White's Scary Adventures becoming Snow White's Enchanted Wish, right? In which there was a different design team that was part of that attraction and felt that, okay, let's make this a less scary attraction. Let's put an actual ending to this ride, in which Tony Baxter and Bruce Gordon back in the day with the New Fantasyland couldn't actually achieve because Peter Pan took up so much space and so forth. So, it's not like a change like that. This is being done for distinct ideological reasons by a initiative that is tasked with finding problems with the parks. That's the clear distinction right here.
Well, you of course mentioned Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Of course, Peter Dinklage ended up putting them on their back foot by not being able to cast dwarfs in the Snow White film. Now, we don't know that that's a fact, that they didn't do it because of him, but they have magical creatures in the movie. And the movie is not Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It is just Snow White in the live action remake here. So I think there is some possibility, except for the fact that they have merchandise for them, that Disney would even say that the dwarfs are not acceptable for the Snow White ride here. I don't know. Maybe that's actually the comment question that I want to throw on the end of this video. What do you think Disney is going to be forced to get rid of once Stories Matter realizes that there's actually a problem with it? We've already heard about the noose supposedly not making the cut there when they return the Haunted Mansion to its original corporeal form out there at Disneyland sometime next year. I don't know. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What's next on the chopping block? Like this video, of course, if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.